This video deals with the elemental ordering within a magical circle. It is an addition to those I made on SIRP and the fields of operation. Besides different arrangements, the video summarizes some of my personal reflections as one doing the work for almost 5 years. This part discusses the most common orderings within the magical circles. Delving a bit deeper, the second examines the shapes created by those orderings using some common sense and simple logic. Disclaimer: everything I say is to be taken with great skepticism and desirably tried and tested firsthand. The opinions I express may or may not match your empirical results, which are the only thing you should trust. The Winds Model. Being the standard for 90% of the books on magic and Wicca, the so-called Winds Model arranges a magical circle with air in the east, fire in the south, water in the west, and earth in the north. The Winds Model balances two opposing sides by grouping the elements into a passive and an active couple. As written in the Golden Dawn, the northwest and southeast winds are more harmonious, uniting the influences of two active and passive elements. The Tree of Life. Essentially, this matches the whole Tree of Life dynamic, especially since Qabala and the Pillar of Severity are on the right side of the operator's body, whereas Hesed and Death of Mercy on the left. After completing the circle facing east using the Winds Model, the magician has the passive couple on their left, or more precisely, their whole northwest, and the active on the right, or more specifically, their entire southeast. And this is according to the rule that when looking at it, the Tree of Life is a reflection of the magician and vice versa. In my humble opinion, this is part of what is meant when it said that the Pentagram formula affirms the magician as a perfect reflection of the Tree of Life. Also, why rather than using in the column, some groups say in the middle pure flames the 6 red star when finishing their LRP. Examined from this perspective, the Winds Model emphasizes the balance between two opposites. Staying in its center, the magician is spirit's emissary, bringing equilibrium. Different hemispheres. The primary rule behind the Winds Model is that this is where the winds come from. On the contrary, there is a solid argument that this is different based on the magician's location. According to some sources, such a magical circle is only accurate in the northern hemisphere, and practitioners in the southern hemisphere should swap out the directions of fire and earth, also that of the circle, and move anti-clockwise or widdershins. Reasons for such arrangements include the sun-cast shadows and the hurricane directions opposing those of the northern hemisphere. Supposedly, making them based on your destination aligns you with nature and how it operates in the different hemispheres. Nonetheless, such modifications aren't mentioned in most books on Golden Dawn and Thelema, and based on my research are mainly utilized by Wiccan groups. According to Regardis the Golden Dawn, the south wind bring it into action the nature of fire, west winds bring with them moisture and rain, north winds are cold and dry like earth. Unquote. Somewhat vague, that is the whole explication of the subject in the book. Adhering to the Winds Model, scholars often explain it expresses how one perceives the elements in their psyche. On the contrary, this is subjective and primarily used for microcosmic rituals. The Zodiac Model. Traditionally, the Golden Dawn and Thelema use the elements' cardinal positioning in the heavens, also called the Zodiac Model, that is fire in the east, earth in the south, air in the west, and water in the north. According to David Shoemaker and James Eshelman, that's only if you're in a vault of the second order. Otherwise, they believe the winds or your pentagram directions should be applied as mentioned in my LRH video. LRP and LRH. Considering Regardis the Golden Dawn, using the winds and the Zodiac Model makes the elements vibrate between their places in micro and macrocosm. That is fire between east and south, air between east and west, water between west and north, earth between north and south, and spirit between depth and height. As explained in part 2, that creates some of an infinity shape, and this is why in my opinion some scholars say that the two models complement each other. Mutual qualities. Moving away from the Winds Model, some practitioners order their circles based on the elements' mutual qualities or density. Recognized by Aristotle and ancient philosophy, these qualities are dry, hot, moist, and cold. Aristotle believed that the qualities were the elements, whereas the elements he called simple bodies. Simple bodies. Each element or simple body combines two of those four. Fire is dry and hot, air is hot and moist, water is moist and cold, and earth is cold and dry. Based on my research, the elements were recognized to form a cyclical concept or dynamic. Fire can turn into air, air into water, water into earth, and earth into fire. And all elements strive toward their natural placement in the universe so they can transform from one to another, as written in this article. As shared in the comment section of my LRP video, one such arrangement is going from fire to earth to water to air. While it matches the mystical tablet of union in reverse, I do not have experience with that, so I cannot comment on it, save for saying it resembles a Key of Solomon magic circle with geomantic shapes which, based on my research, predict the winds model. Density model option 1. Another ancient order is swapping the places of fire and air in the traditional winds model. Based on what I found, this has two variations. Outlined in Damon Brandt's Archangels of Magic, the first actually starts in the north. Brandt explains that although getting some results from it, the traditional winds model never felt quite right, and later in his career he stumbled on an ancient Jewish prayer. Quote, "From early antiquity, the four occult elements, which are of course symbolic rather than literal, have been associated with the cardinal directions. Until more recent centuries, it was long believed that fire was in the east, air in the south, water in the west, and earth in the north." Unquote. Siddur prayer book. Based on what I found, this arrangement comes from the Siddur prayer book for evening and bedtime prayer. This is interesting because after calling all four archangels, the book adds the phrase "and above my head Shekinah El," and as those versed in Hebrew know, the water means the presence of God. The Middle Pure book. Considering Archangels of Magic, Damon Brandt likely doesn't use that 13th phrase in his LRP. On the contrary, the Cicero's version of the Middle Pure, which is all about the winds model, recognizes the possibility of adding that 13th phrase. And while that probably adds completion, by far I do not have enough experience starting in the north, so I cannot comment on using the technique in this manner. Density model option 2. The density model's second version also swaps out fire and air, yet it starts in the east. It's worth mentioning that such an arrangement keeps the winds model and the 3 of 5 opposites as mentioned, but more harmoniously. More on that in part 2. Hermetic Qabala. This arrangement is heavily emphasized by more of a low-key scholar Jeff Rhodes and his Hermetic Order of the Round Table. Though not saying that directly, Rhodes' Hermetic Qabala regards the traditional Golden Dawn orderings not just less effective but also as causing side effects. Rhodes applies the density model for both hexagram and pentagram formulas, yet he keeps the shapes of the traditional LRH. He explains that all this better aligns with the principles of alchemy, ancient philosophy, and the techniques of Franz Barton. Rhodes' definition of LRH is to invoke the basic and transformative power as its shapes are ordered by the density model. Comment. Now, whether that's precisely the case I cannot tell with absolute certainty. On the contrary, I get some surprisingly good results from performing my operant and invoking fields in such manner. Though undoubtedly working, the traditional Golden Dawn positioning could distract me by making me mindful of meaningless stuff and information in the objective. On the other hand, swapping the places of fire and air feels as if it brings me into the external, actively building and constantly interacting with it with minimal distractions. Said differently, in its standard positioning, LRH mostly makes me react to the outer world, whereas this version of it makes me act upon it, and I'd say that it allows me to actively work toward achieving some of what David Cherubim talks about in his essay Telima, The Way of the Strong. Quote, "Masters banish the restriction of dependence. They live as true individuals, self-reliant and free, in the sublime spiritual consciousness of their true self, and thus they are alone, true hermits of the spirit, far removed from the people of the world, but living and working in the world, among the people to accomplish their true will." It also aligns me with some concepts examined in my Uncle Setnak's Essential Guide to the Left-Hand Path book review. According to some, this is doing a macrocosmic ritual microcosmically. According to Rhodes, the arrangement connects to the ferret center more efficiently, merging micro and macrocosm. Saturn and LRH. Certain scholars point out that one of the reasons for using LRH is performing its banishing form to remove Saturnian influences, breaking universe's inertia and restrictions. While my take on using too much banishing is in my fields of operation video, doing LRH in this arrangement doesn't feel as if bringing more restrictions and limitations. In fact, I'd say that it allows me to use that to my advantage, acting and building things in the external, almost as if Saturn generously includes my development in its inertia. It also makes time work for specific aspects of my life, and all this, in my humble opinion, could be seen as part of what Crowley meant when saying to merge your will with the universal will. Does this make sense to you? Also, do you get similar results? Feel free to let me know in the comment section. Reflections. Slightly deviating from the winds model, this is the arrangement I have the most experience with, save for the winds and the Zodiac models. I adopted it because the traditional Golden Dawn orderings made little sense to my core self, though this may change as I progress on my journey. Thus far, that's the only thing I have difficulty fully accepting in Golden Dawn and Thelemic Magick. Nonetheless, the fact remains that most people use the traditional Golden Dawn orderings, and that creates a powerful egregore into which you can tap by doing the same. But all this is my opinion, which may not resonate with you. Whatever the case, I'll be happy if you let me know your take on the topic. Feel free to share that, such as your personal experiences with using different orderings. Also, your suggestions for future videos. Otherwise, like this video if you think it provides value, subscribe to this channel for more content like this, check my other works if you're into healthy living and tech reviews, also my books and coaching services by DMing me on Instagram. As long as for the actual results of such consulting, I suggest checking my other channel, especially its latest content. Who knows, I might be able to help you improve your body and health in conformity with your will while preserving your willpower for the truly meaningful in your life. Think of that for a moment. Also, visit my Etsy store if you need elemental tablets and the cheat sheet on the fields of operation. All my music and articles are on Spotify and Medium, and I'll see you in the next one. Thank you for your time.